Hey folks, Ben here from And All Was Bright, here to break down the first track, Destroyer, from my album of the same name. I'll go through the project file in Ableton and present how everything is generated, processed, and arranged, and hear some sounds from the album before we get into it in Ableton. Alright, so here we are in the project file for Destroyer. We have 9 tracks and the remainder are MIDI tracks with some instruments on them. And under the audio tracks, each one of them has some effects, and I'll go through each track and all the effects and how I'm processing the audio and the instruments as well. So let's just have a quick listen. Alright, so let's take a look at each track, and as you can see on the right here, all 4 of the audio tracks with samples on them are actually playing the same sample, and by the looks of the waveform on each strip, it looks like we have different portions of that same sample being played. And in this one here, it looks like duplication and then a different section of the sample for the more intense parts of the track. So let's take a listen to the first track just soloed and listen to the effects and how I've processed the sample. So on the channel strip here, I have a standard audio effects rack. This audio effect rack I have as a default on every audio channel. It's just a compressor, an auto filter, low and high pass, and then an EQ 8 and a utility, but as you can see they're off. And the only thing running on here is Ozone 10 for loudness and compression and an amp. And in fact, the amp is the effect that is absolutely killing the distortion on this track. So let's take a listen to it without the amp. While we have that turned off, let's take a listen in the more intense parts of the song to hear what part of the sample is being played. So we clearly have a full-bodied sound here, and then when you run it through Ableton's amp on the heavy setting, it sounds incredible. And as you can see, that's pretty much track 1. And probably the most important point here is that sample that I'm running here is pitched down 5 semitones. So that's the sound of the final product turning off the amp. This is the sound of it, just no effects. And if we were to pitch it back up to 0, this is what the original sample sounds like. And we'll play it all the way through so you can hear what the actual sample sounds like in its entirety. I'll fast forward a little here so you can hear that it is a mixed down from a trap sample pack. So as you can hear, it's completely warped and I've got a low tempo. So let's just push it up to 140. Hear what it sounds like at a higher BPM. Definitely a completely different kind of music here. And when we take a look at where the sample's from, this is from a trap sample pack. So on to track number 2, which is very similar. It's the use of the same, so got it reversed there as well. There's that little R in the title refers to the fact that I reversed it. This is non-reversed, this is reversed. Yeah, sounds reversed. All right, we'll move on to the next track. Same thing, and this is the reversed version. So I took a copy of this portion here, dropped it down, ran it through reverb. So on channel A, my return, just have Ableton's reverb running at full wet with a huge decay, huge size. I cut off the low end so there's not a lot of buildup of low end frequencies. And let's listen to just that. So as you can see, the waveform is entirely reversed, and we've just got this portion after the intro, which again was used for the beginning. So if we zoom out on the beginning of the first track, you'll see it's just a reverse of the same waveform, but we were playing the beginning part, and now here we were playing the part following the intro before all the drums hit. And there's no effects really on it apart from ozone running It's just for compression and limiting. And on to track 3. I'll zoom out here and take a look. So it looks like the same portion of that sample, but looped in small sections. And you'll see here I have it pitched up 7 semitones versus track number 1 we were down 5 semitones. So track 2 is 1 octave above track 1. Track number 3 here, similarly, it is just the second section of the intro of the same sample, just reversed, and smaller portions of it are sampled along the arrangement. And it looks like we have it here up 19 semitones, so that's 2 octaves above. And it's running through reverb. And probably the most significant fact is it's running through distortion, and we're automating the filter frequency as we get up into the higher energy section of the song. So it looks like in this higher energy section we actually turn off the auto filter as well. Alright, moving on to track number 4, which is the 4th use of this sample in this track. We just double click on it and zoom out and take a look. This is the intro section similar to track number 1, and it is the non-reversed sample, so just the straight sample, and running through amp again with the lead and running through reverb as well. Alright, so it provides some higher frequency content. Although if I was mixing this today, I would have also taken out the low end. And that plays pretty much the whole track. And track 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all the same, taking the same sample, using either a regular playthrough or a reversed playthrough, taking sections of that sample and changing the pitch and chopping them up. But it's an entire mix down from a sample pack and changed it enough that it sounded like something different. Alright, now on to some of the synths. We'll look at it in order of arrangement here, so we'll jump down here to track number 6. We have Sylenth running through an amp, auto filter cutting off the lower frequencies, and an overdrive giving some more distortion. Let's hear what that sounds like just soloed. Oh, and it's also going through reverb. As you can see, most of the tracks apart from track number 1 and track number 9 are going through the reverb. So going through return track A, which has the reverb on it. And just a note that I put ozone on every track at the end for limiting, EQ, and loudness. Alright, let's hear what track 6 just sounds like separately. And this is Blade Runner, so it's the fourth preset without the arpeggiator on. And that just loops the whole time. And there's no automation on the whole thing. And we'll jump up here back to track number 5. Same thing, Sylenth running a pattern. Kind of an arpeggiated pattern. Same patch, number 4, Blade Runner. Let's listen to what that sounds like soloed out. Okay, just a repeating pattern. And 7, same thing, repeating pattern with Sylenth, only in this case we've got amp with the rock preset, cutting out the low end, an overdrive, and looks like some automation. So this is the same audio effect rack that I put on every audio channel. It's just that compressor, 2 auto filters, EQ8 utility, and an ozone. But here the only significance is the auto filter, which is showing that we have it on in the build up and the most intense portion of the track, and then some automation of it increasing in frequency, letting the higher in as it goes along the track. So let's listen to that, what it sounds like. Okay, and we'll skip ahead to when the filter's opening up a little bit. Okay, so this section here, it's a completely open filter. The auto filter's turned off, and then we turn the filter on for this section and raise it up till it hits its louder part of the song here. And it's basically back up to what it was in this section here. So these two sections are pretty much the same in loudness and intensity. All right, jumping down to this track 9, also silent, running through amp and an auto filter, the exact same thing, only this time we're using the heavy preset and cutting out the low end and another simple pattern. Again, we're using Blade Runner from Silent, but a lower register for the notes. And then in the higher energy part of the song, it's a higher frequency, higher notes. And this one is not running through the reverb. We have some automation on the auto filter, the random with the high amount. Giving it a little bit of a glitch effect. And now up to Opus through an amp as well with the heavy preset. Nothing else really going on. That's soloed out. It's also going through the reverb, so obviously that's a really intense portion of the track. Alright, so now let's listen to it all together. So to sum up this track, really all it is 4 audio tracks, 5 MIDI tracks. And the audio tracks, I started with a mix down from a sample pack, brought it into Ableton, dropped the BPM, didn't really change much on the warp. So I have automatic warp to beats, preserved transients, and cropped out certain sections of it, changed the pitch, and ran it through amp and reverb. And then the instruments, I just chose some instruments that went along with the energy, ran them through amp, auto filter, overdrive, and other distortion, like the Arturia cold fire distortion, and then just ran them through reverb, and then made some adjustments with automation over time on some parameters here and there, and that's the song. This same format was also used for every other song on the album. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed this.